friends, and welcome to day 2 of Project STEAM, Design Your Own Planet. So yesterday we really took a lot of focus into looking at some of the aspects of our planet Earth, and we created our very first illustration. So I created 2 to show y'all, and we'll go over them super duper fast. We talked about what are the colors that are present in the world. So we talked about the shades of blue telling us about the depth of water, the different shades of browns and tans and greens that show us where our landforms are. We did some white for the ice and snow, as well as some lightly swirling white to talk about the clouds so that they know we have an atmosphere. We even included our own little Luna, so we have a moon in our sky. And on our backdrop of space, we included our stars, which we discussed are not all the same size, color, nor shape because they have different ages, different compositions, and are different distances. So this was my more realistic picture we took, and this was our second one where we talked about just kind of free-forming it because there is no wrong way to do so. And I painted my black construction paper a little bit, and I cut out my giant Luna as well as my Earth, and I wanted it to be a little bit bigger because I made this one 3D. So this one I just kind of taped down, this one I folded some paper under, so it was kind of a floaty effect, and I just really loved that. So what we're going to do today is talk about some of the other planets that are within our solar system. And you can really do this project a number of ways. So I'll show you a couple different options. But we're going to talk about every single planet. We're not going to go into super duper deep detail, but we are going to talk a little bit about each one. And we are going to create, like we did here, some models of each one so that we can combine all of our planets together and create a model of our solar system. And that'll really set us on the right path to creating our own solar system next. So what you're gonna want to do is think about the different sizes and grab your piece of paper. I'm taking watercolor paper again today, but you can use cardstock, you can use any thick paper you like. Make sure you watch through our video first and then give it a try however you like the best. You can do it where you make a single one and you attach it to paper, and it can be long like that. I will show you how to do a basic mobile, and I'm gonna see if we can make kind of a complicated mobile because I would really love to be able to see at least a representation of the orbit. And an orbit, you remember, is the planets going around the sun. So get your circle mark or your compass and get tracing. I went through and I have drawn 4 of each planet types, and next I have to do the sun. I didn't do the sun yet because it's so huge. I only put the planets on here, and I'm thinking I might want to do something different for the sun. So let's jump right in and get started, okay? All right, grab your paper, grab a pencil, and grab whatever art materials you like best. I am going to use paint and probably some markers. So use whatever you like the most, and let's go. So you'll see that I have all of the planets sketched out and they're labeled. So right now I am going to work on Mercury. The closest planet to the sun is Mercury. It looks very, very much like Earth's moon. It's covered in craters from being hit by asteroids and comets. It has a beautiful light blue and yellow color added to its gray. Next closest to the sun is Venus. It's the hottest and brightest planet in our solar system. It's so bright that it's called the morning star. If you look in the sky at dawn or dusk, so sunrise or sunset, it's the one that is large and reddish. Earth is our planet. We have the only liquid water on the surface of any planet, and the only plants and animals in the entire solar system. I've chosen to use lots of greens and blues to show the water and plant life, though I'll add lots of other tans and browns to show that there are a diverse number of landforms. Notice that when I was sketching these out, two of them look almost identical to one another, and the next two look almost the same as those ones. That way, when I connect them, they will look more like a perfect circle. Our sister planet is Mars, and coincidentally, it is the last of the rocky planets that are known as the inner planets. Mars is known as the red planet. Though it no longer has any liquid water left on its surface, there's evidence of water hidden deep beneath it. It has huge canyons and volcanoes now. Before we reach the next planet, we have to pass through a large ring of asteroids known as the main asteroid belt. Some are clusters of pebbles, whilst others are dwarf planets, all irregularly shaped and made out of rock and metal. The asteroids separate the inner and outer planets of the solar system. The first one on the other side is this gas giant known as Jupiter. Jupiter is the largest of the gas giants, and it's also the stormiest. You see how it has a little circle spot on it? That is its biggest storm. The storm is called the Great Red Spot, and it looks like an eye that hasn't blinked in hundreds of years. One really neat fact about Jupiter is that it has over 50 moons. Next up is Saturn. Saturn has bright rings made out of ice, dust, and rock. The planet, though, is 96% hydrogen and is almost completely made out of gas. There are 7 groups of rings going around it, and each one of those rings can be made out of thousands of rings. If you tried to count them, it would get pretty tricky, but the 7 rings are actually broken into 2 groups of 4 and 3. Next up is Uranus. Uranus is known as an ice giant. It's made up out of gas and ice crystals. It's the only planet that rotates on its side. I love to watch it because it looks like it tumbles instead of twirls like all of the other planets in our solar system. I used a lot of different shades of blue, and I wanted to make sure that they were really light because of how frozen cold it is. The last planet is Neptune. It's a beautiful sapphire blue and has an ice storm much like Jupiter, known as the Great Dark Spot. Neptune is windy, dark, and very cold. I decided against making it as deep blue as it should be because I wanted my colors to all work together. But it does have a lot of wonderful depth, and we can't forget its eye. To finish up my paintings, I am getting this section of the paper wet because I'm going to layer a bunch of different colors. I need to make 2 sets of rings, one for Uranus and one for Saturn. Both planets have a wide variety of rings that are broken up into 2 parts. Their rings are made out of all different materials. So I wanted to really show that by using a bunch of colors and by mixing my paints in certain ways. Notice how the paint can move along the paper. So if we let some parts dry before adding more colors, we dab or drop it on, we can watch it move in all different ways. I love to make the colors kind of blend together as well as stand out from each other. That way I can pick out my favorite stripes of color, and we will be cutting them out, bending and folding and making just right planetary rings. Notice how none of them are perfectly colored inside the lines? I hope that you keep it messy too. Now it's all done. So all of my shapes have dried, and of course if you chose to do just 1 of each planet or 2 of each planet, or you're following along with me and doing 4 of each planet, that took a little bit of time. So now we have to cut them all out. So I'm gonna grab my sturdy scissors and get to cutting them all out. Let's get started. So that took a little bit of time, but I'm really liking them. And I cut out some strips that I'm hoping to use as like the rings around my planets, because Saturn and Uranus both have some pretty prevalent rings. And I wanted to make sure that I could make some of those, and I wanted them to be cute. So we have a couple options for how you'd like to proceed. You can attach these to a piece of paper. So just like we did yesterday or last time, you can grab a black piece of paper. You're gonna need probably at least 2. Stretch it out longer, or color a piece of paper black to get those on there. Or you can make a little sandwich out of these. That way it's like it's double-sided. And then you can attach them either to popsicle sticks or a stick. You could do it straight across. You could do it like a circle, like a mobile. You could attach it to a long stick if you have a larger piece of scrap wood or ruler or anything like that. So that is up to you of how you want to do it. What I am gonna give a try is I would like to make them 3D looking. So I'm gonna take my circles and gonna fold it in half carefully, and then I'm gonna take the next one and fold it in half carefully. And most of them, it won't matter if we kind of change the directions, but some of these I put some pretty strong like stripes on. And when you put them next to each other and glue them down, it's gonna make it look 3D. So again, you could connect it to paper like that and it will look 3D. Or you can keep going, fold it in half, and fold it in half, and then glue those two and glue those two, and you will have a full circle planet. Now the edges are going to be a little bit wibbly wobbly unless you were amazingly perfectly McPerfect, which as you can see from mine, I am not. So you can either choose to paint those to match, or what I'm thinking is I would love to add some gold or silver paint or maybe some glitter on all the edges. So let's assemble those. And if some of these get too small, like these ones are tiny, then they might just end up like sandwiches. Let's check it out and see.
So while I was testing out, I decided to make an extra base just in case I wanted to change up the way that I was going. So I've got my Gorilla Glue gun and my yarn, and now that I have an extra base made, I'm working on stringing my 3D planets. So I cut a long length of yarn and I doubled it over. And using my special 3D method of making planets, I'm hot gluing them, which you can use regular white glue, but you'll have to let it sit a little bit longer. And I'm going to make a little sandwich out of them. So I jumped the gun a little bit and forgot to put my yarn in between. So here I am re-gluing. I have 2 pieces together and 2 pieces together. And then I will lay a piece of yarn inside, make it like a little sandwich right along the center. Add some more glue and I'm going to squish it together and hold it shut. So be extra careful because this is hot glue. I didn't really have any major burn issues because I am using watercolor paper, which is really thick. So I held it for at least 10 seconds and squishing and holding, and it's done. So like I said, you do want to kind of check out the edges and change those ones up a little bit, but I'm really loving them.
So I haven't quite figured out how I want to do my cross base. So I've got a little bit of a longer piece of wood, and I am going to attach this on here just so it finishes setting, and then so it can stay in the right order. I definitely recommend to do them in order unless you're doing a project like this and want to do the easy ones first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finished string and I'm going to fold it in half like so, and we're going to do a slip knot. So if you have a friend or a grown-up or a sibling, this is another good one for them to help with. Someone holds the stick, holding the loop open, drop your planet in, and then pull the planet and the end out. And that's it. Your planet is now attached. You can wrap the string around the top and glue it down, and then your stick will continue to be decorative and wonderful, and your planet will be secured. Ta-da! I've got a lot of planets to do, so let's finish this up. Alright, so we've got them all on, wrapped, and put a dollop of hot glue on each one just to secure it. You don't have to, but I rather like it. So here it is. It's almost completely finished. You'll notice that they're mostly just evenly spaced. I didn't go like fully realistic and set them any particular distance. I wanted this part of it to be a little bit more decorative. And rather than make sure that they are identical with, you know, their actual distances and orbits, because some of the orbits are round, some are elliptical, everything is going around the sun at some point here. right? Whoosh. But I wanted them to be kind of evenly spaced so that I can actually display this like a piece of art in my house. So everything is pretty sturdy, and now the last thing is to figure out some rings for Saturn and Uranus. If you want to stop here, that would be totally fine, but I want to keep that one last detail in. If you want to go above for details, you could add some sparkly strings. You could put some black strings in between to hang down like a fringe of space. You could even add some like star beads. But that part, my daughter wants star beads. I think that's what we're gonna do. Let's finish up.
So right now I'm working on how to arrange the rings themselves. I tucked a piece into it to kind of hold inside of Uranus because I wanted to go on kind of a cool angle. And I included this so that you could see that I had a plan made up of a bunch of ideas, but I definitely started just trying things out, and I was putting my hands together in it and figuring out how to make the paper kind of work the way I wanted it to. And it definitely didn't always do exactly as I had been hoping.
I'll show you guys my secret. I actually have lots of beautiful metallic star beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the inner planets and the outer planets, which are normally separated by an asteroid belt, but I'm going to separate them by stars. I'm going to take a long strand and fold it in half. I'm going to put a little knot right at the top here where it's folded over so that our beads can't slide off. And then I'm going to alternate legs, putting the stars on, and then every so often I'll take the yarn and I'll put in a knot so that the star can move only that far. It's like I need to double knot it. If you have a really thick or chunky yarn, you might not have to do double knots. If you have a really thin yarn or string, you'll definitely want to do some extra knots. Mine is made out of a 2-strand yarn, so when I tie them, it gets super, super tiny. There, now I did a triple knot, and that's as far as it can go. Fun, huh? Now I'll do that over each one of these legs so that I'll have a whole string of stars.
Just remember that there's no wrong way to do this. So make them whatever distance either you want or just happens.
You don't really have to worry about this step, and it's completely optional. You could also try to make these out of different paper or pom-poms or anything else you really like. You could even do some very light stones on it or plain beads. It's really up to you what you make your stars or asteroids out of, or even if you want to include them. At the end, go ahead and tie a knot. Tie it tight. If you've got your hot glue handy, you can add a little dab to ensure that it doesn't untie. Up to you, totally optional. And then trim off the edge. Maybe wait for your hot glue to dry first. Snip, snip, snip. Snip, snip, snip. Ta-da! Side one, hand. And there we go. Our planets are ready. And now we'll add our special stars. So we'll want to count in our inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. And we'll put our asteroid belt in between Mars and Jupiter. And there we go. So you can loop these, but I just glued the loop right to the top so that I would still have 2 strands since there's 2 layers to the asteroid belt. And that's it, that's my finished piece. I am so excited for it and I'm loving it so much. I'm really excited to see what y'all make next. So make sure that you share your work and have an awesome blossom day.